But that is the Federal Reserve and what has happened to the economic situation in our country, because it seems to me that things are out of control. And everybody who listens to this show knows that I'm a committed capitalist. I'm a free enterprise guy, and I believe in capitalism. But we are now living in a situation that is almost unprecedented. It's not completely unprecedented, but it's almost unprecedented. And we'll tell you when it happened once before. But right now, can you believe, think of this statistic, this fact. Okay, the bottom 90% of America, so 9 out of every 10 people in this country, in total, own the same amount as the top 1/10 of 1%.
90 out of 100, right?
More than that. That's 90 out of 100. Well, 90 out of 100
right.
Own the same as 1 out of 1,000. Think about that. Those numbers are absolutely staggering, that the top 1/10 of 1% own the same amount of assets as the bottom 90% of our country.
Aggregate.
Yeah, 300 million people own the same as about 300,000 people. I think if I'm running the numbers right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's just absolutely unbelievable, right? The wealth gap, the distribution of wealth, and you might say, well, this is because of capitalism. And no, it is not.
Well, what is it?
This is because of the Federal Reserve bank system and the fiat money system that we're currently operating under. Now, remember, the Federal Reserve was passed by a voice vote in Congress. Now, a voice vote is where they don't even count, right? And who knows how many people were even there, because you know when it passed? December 23rd of 1913. So do you imagine there were a lot of Congress people? Don't forget they're taking off next Thursday, and they don't come back until the new year. So how many do you think are there on December 23rd? Could it be like 3 or 4? Well, we had a voice vote. Everybody who was here, we had a voice vote,
and they didn't
even
have tape recorders back then, so there's really no proof.
There's no proof. There's no record. And you can read all about this in a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which gets into the founding of the Federal Reserve and how it was essentially a conspiracy among very powerful moneyed interests to create a Bank of the United States, which had been created a couple of times before, but was heavily opposed by people, including Andrew Jackson. Remember, he got shot because of it at one point. They tried to kill him because he opposed the Bank of the United States. But they eventually got it passed, and that was in 1913. And ever since then, our entire monetary system has gone haywire, and it's built on itself, of course, because, when President Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, which had been put in place by the Bretton Woods Agreement, when he took us off the gold standard, which governed, at least kept some restrictions on the amount of money that they could print, now there are absolutely no restrictions on the amount of money that they can print. And we've seen this. We've seen what they did, where they did the TARP program, the $30 trillion printed up and handed out. Now, of course, they didn't actually print it. It's all numbers on a screen. But that happened in 2008 or so to try to fix the financial crisis. And you look at what that did to the wealth of the bottom 50% as compared to the middle 40% and the top 10%. The bottom 50% took that one right on the chin.
I know we're up against a break, but I want to know, Morgan, your opinion. What would a more socialistic direction do to these numbers?
Well,
because they want to argue, the AOCs and Elizabeth Warrens, that it would help.
I think it would exacerbate the problem. Absolutely. I think it would exacerbate the problem. It would make things worse. What we've got to get control of is monetary policy and the disconnection between money and reality. What is money but a piece of paper or a promise? It's debt. But I want to just say one more thing about the Fed and what has happened to our country, because there's been a huge misallocation of capital. What do I mean by that? I mean, money is being spent on things that, frankly, I don't think have value. Look at the price of Bitcoin. It's about $7,300 today. We know it's been as high as almost $20,000 at one point. Now, Bitcoin is nothing but an entry in a secure transaction register. So, yeah, it's a secure register, but all it is something on a computer that says you own this. Well, what do you own?
Does it seem like it's losing traction, though?
Maybe a little bit, but look, what's it compared to an ounce of gold? Gold exists. You can hold the gold in your hand. And in fact, get yourself an ounce of gold if you can afford it. Hold it in your hand. You kind of know what some of the ancients felt like. It's really heavy. Our friend E.B. Tucker was on. He described that. It's heavy. It's beautiful. It kind of catches the light. I mean, you've got something. You've got an asset. If I have the ounce of gold, you can't have it at the same time, Roxanne. But when we're talking about these computer things or fake money on computers, debt that's created by the Fed on computers, it's all entries in a computer. I mean, really, we don't have any control over it.
Is it just a roll of the dice?
What?
Bitcoin.
Well, Bitcoin, look, that's a longer discussion that I
You've
can't.
had those on here before.
And we've had those. And, there was a time when maybe you would have been smart to buy a little bit of it and hold it, and you'd have made some money. But that doesn't mean that it is actually anything real. And what we're doing in our society now is we're rewarding things that are not real, and there's something very wrong with that.
It's what we value in society. We do value things that are intangible, that are just on our phones, pictures on a phone versus the real event that took place or the framed photo.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking about, one of the big areas of investment now, apparently, and this is one of the things I wanted to get to, is these video game teams where investors are actually putting money into sponsoring, first recruiting talent, then sponsoring teams to go off and play these video game competitions and win prizes, millions of dollars in prizes. And
Tampa's working on a team.
Okay, and but this is, talk about malarkey. These are video games. There's no value in video games. Didn't we learn that growing up? Now, okay, you can use them as distractions, but when you're paying somebody to play a video game, and yet people who dig ditches or who build roads or who build things are barely making it in this country, barely able to earn enough to survive, why are we so rewarding fake things and we're not rewarding real things? Why are we rewarding Bitcoin at $7,300 and we don't reward gold? Gold is $1,500. It probably should be $2,000 or $3,000 or maybe more. Some people think it should be as much as $10,000 an ounce. Why are real tangible assets not given the value that these fake assets are given? And the reason is because we're essentially living in casino land. We're living in a fake monetary system created by the Federal Reserve and this easy money policy, which they have just reinstituted, and that is causing everything to get out of whack and the money to flow into these assets or these pursuits that are not real and not tangible. And I think that's a real mistake, and that's why the rich keep getting richer and the poor and the middle class see their savings inflated away. Just see it inflated away over time. Mm-hmm. And yet people in New York City who do things like invest in video game teams, they just keep getting more Bentleys. They keep eating at nicer restaurants, only Michelin-starred restaurants, only the finest food, only the best jets to fly everywhere, and all of this stuff. And it's a misallocation of capital. We should reward real things, real effort, real assets. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.